Welcome back. Following a video posted on Prime Minister Allen Chastain's Facebook page on the many fiscal incentives provided to businesses in St. Lucia and foreign entities, Senator Evaristus Jean-Marie is airing his views. He says the video is just a ploy being used by officials to avoid answering questions that have arisen from them providing the Fresh Start Construction Company with fiscal incentives. More from Genevieve Gonzalez.
Jean-Marie and Sons also benefited with a 100% waiver on customs duties when they were setting up their LPG cooking gas operation in St. Lucia. It is noteworthy that this company was not manufacturing but rather repackaging LPG, yet was still granted a 100% concession.
A 7-minute video posted on the Facebook page of Prime Minister Allen Chastain explaining the amendments to the Fiscal Incentive Act has ruffled some feathers, especially given the not-so-subtle jabs at businessman Evaristus Jean-Marie. The businessman and former independent senator has been a critic of the government when it comes to granting concessions to Fresh Start Construction Company. The video on the PM's page points out that he benefited from incentives himself.
There is nothing unusual or abnormal in granting fiscal incentives to companies local and foreign. It's a normal course of government operations as an incentive. There are rules, there's regulation that governs those concessions to businesses. And in the particular case you refer to is the Fiscal Incentives Act. The central issue which remains unanswered, unaddressed, is why is the government operating outside the law to grant fiscal incentives to a construction company?
Jean-Marie says the intent of the video is clear, underscoring that the PM is seeking to deflect from the actual questions that need to be addressed.
The Fiscal Incentives Act addresses two areas of business activity: manufacturing and services. In the case of manufacturing, Fresh Start falls short, it doesn't qualify. Under the list of services which are very clear in the legislation, it fails to qualify. So my issue is the government has acted outside of the law to grant fiscal incentives to Fresh Start Construction, and they need to address the question why. Regarding to my situation, where it references me that my company received fiscal incentives, and that I think it went further to say it was not a manufacturing concern. Well, let me subject it to the soft drink test, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you take, there are companies operating there, two of them. You take syrup and water and you bottle it, soft drink. It's a manufacturing operation. I took LPG and I bottled it. I want to know what's the significant difference. It's LPG. It is manufacturing, albeit light manufacturing. So whoever was presenting the case as if, well, I'd received incentive and somehow I shouldn't talk, that is irrelevant. It has no bearing on the issues that I presented to you a while ago.
He has called for the officials to come out and address the questions that he has presented.
And to go and hide behind a video and somebody who's reading who doesn't understand what they're reading is a cowardly way of addressing a very serious issue. They are trying to obfuscate the issue. The issue is not about whether I'm entitled to fiscal incentive or not. That is not the issue. The issue is you acted outside the law in granting fiscal incentives. Lots of companies get fiscal incentives. And to make it sound like, well, they got it, so why can't you get it? That's not the issue. The issue is doing it right. You went outside of the law to grant fiscal incentives to an entity, and you went over and above what is normally done. This is a company that is being granted contracts without competition. They are free to price it as they deem fit. They will make profits on it. And you're telling them after that you do not have to pay taxes.
He says all that needs to be done right now is for the officials to address the concerns brought up by the citizens of the country. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
The National Skills Development Center, NSDC, is offering full scholarships to people interested in pursuing a course in crop production and agro-processing. The Public Relations Officer for the NSDC explained that the center is hoping that the initiative helps reduce youth unemployment as well as encourage people to become self-employed and independent, especially now during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Whether it is in schools or society in general, many youth have a misconception of agriculture and farming. Many believe that farming solely involves the plowing and digging of land. The National Skills Development Center, NSDC, is on a mission to encourage youth to go into the field of agriculture. 40 full-paid scholarships are being awarded to people who meet the criteria in order for them to study crop production and agro-processing. The PRO of the NSDC, Dane Jules, says the courses have been available, however, have not been pulling the response anticipated by the organization.
However, for that particular project, we have noticed that the response was not as we expected. So we're of course making an urgent prompt to young persons that the opportunity is available. Of course, keeping in mind that right now with our current economy, it is actually mandatory that we grow food. Okay, let's not just think about it from a local perspective, but globally. The world needs food. People need food. So from whatever perspective you look at it, it is a very viable way and means for someone to actually attain a living.
He explained that due to the challenges brought on by COVID-19, people need to become more self-dependent. Therefore, the NSDC is aiming to provide the avenue for that to happen.
Right now, even understanding that the hospitality industry has contracted so significantly, we have so many persons now, they're displaced, some are unemployed, some are frustrated, some are home just doing nothing. And of course, it is really imperative that persons realize that they need to retool, they need to reskill, find different ways of surviving. And the first thing again is food. If you can provide food for your home, your family will survive. And then it expands not from just the home, but you're going beyond the community, the nation, and then we're going global with that as well. So that is one of the things, of course, to help in that terms of that stress reliever to young persons, to give them a different way, a method of being able to survive. So that is one of the major reasons, and then there is a need.
Jules explained that people need to re-evaluate their stance on agriculture as the sector has a lot of potential as well as opportunities.
A lot of us have grown up believing that farming to be something of a lower class field of employment. But again, persons need to rethink that. It's not just about being employed. It's actually a way for persons to get a new identity for themselves. And again, if you really look at it, what are we doing right now? You need to survive. Not just that, but in terms of agriculture, it's an entire sector that has to be developed. So I think if we can alert or teach young persons to realize that there is actually a livelihood in farming. We have persons who are farmers who are successful. If they can actually understand and see that, I think perceptions will change the way that they see farming on a holistic view.
Anyone who is interested in pursuing the crop production or agro-processing courses should contact the National Skills Development Center. Given the current restrictions due to the ongoing pandemic, most theoretical classes will be hosted online. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Insurance agents for Massey United in St. Lucia have joined the many institutions who are giving back to the local community during these perilous times of the COVID-19 pandemic. General Manager Faye Miller explained that the company thinks it is imperative to give back to the people who contribute to the sustainability of any organization.
The COVID-19 pandemic is having a severe impact on countries, economies, companies, and lives across the region. However, the pandemic has fostered and highlighted the compassionate side to many. United Insurance agents for Massey United Insurance in St. Lucia has joined the mission of caring for and looking out for those who may have been dealt a harder blow by the pandemic. General Manager Faye Miller explained that 35 families received Massey care packages.
Very recently we decided to give out some care packages, we call them care packages, to unfortunate families, families who would have been affected by COVID-19. And we chose 35 families and we gave them Massey Stores care packages valued $200 to each family. Families meaning families, usually most of them had, they were single. I think I didn't look at the entire list, but they were single parent families, people with children who would have a tough time of this period. who seem to be having a tough time of any period, especially this period. So we gave out 200 care packages. We're very happy to do that. We did it via the SSDF. We felt that they would have been a good organization to do it through, just to preserve people's dignity really and truly. We didn't want to publicize the individuals who would be receiving the care packages.
Miller says the goal was just to ensure that these 35 families were put in a better position during the pandemic. She explained that the company takes pride in helping in every Caribbean territory where they are based.
I think it's our duty really. It's our duty to give back to the community in which we earn our living. So any support that any business houses or can give, they should give at this time. And I should tell you that, not boasting, but we don't plan to pull back at all. We are sponsors of under-19 cricket. I don't know if you're aware that we have been sponsors of under-19 cricket for something like 34 years. Yeah, 34 years of unbroken commitment in terms of financial support to under-19 secondary schools cricket. And we're not going to be pulling back. Our intention is not to pull back despite the circumstances.
She indicated that businesses that can should make it their duty to give back. Miller explained that the business organization also had many incentives rolled out for the insurance policyholders during the tough and trying COVID-19 period. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Janique Gonzalez.
The St. Lucia Tourism Authority, SLTA, says it is laser-focused on maintaining the island's competitive edge. Officials say the goal is to ensure that the sector does not collapse under the strain of COVID-19. The SLTA's CEO spoke during a panel discussion on Wednesday night.
The impact of COVID-19 on the tourism sector has been devastating, with some 14,000 St. Lucians who earn their livelihood from the travel and hospitality sectors on the breadline. Since the decision was taken to open the borders on July 9, the tourism hospitality sector has been slowly coming to life. To date, 2,000 tourism employees have returned to work. The agency responsible for marketing St. Lucia as a tourism destination has ramped up efforts to ensure that the island maintains its competitive edge despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Beverly Nicholson-Doty is the Chief Executive Officer of the St. Lucia Tourism Authority.
We really have had to be laser focused during this period in ensuring that we did two things. Making sure that St. Lucia remained top of mind in all of our core markets, the UK, Canada, the US, and the Caribbean. But in addition to that, we've had to implement those messages that tell about the fact that we want to be responsible in our reopening process. And so it has been twofold, making sure that St. Lucia is still the #1 destination to visit, but also conveying just how important it is for us to have health and safety procedures.
With the drastic revenue loss for central government, the Tourism Authority, as with all other departments, has had to review its budget. The CEO says the SLTA has been creative in using all social media platforms.
Starting with 7 Minutes in St. Lucia, which was widely popular, moving on to our featuring St. Lucian authors, looking at how we use limited digital marketing dollars to get the most bang for our buck. And we've also been just really out there in terms of public relations. We've had over 600 articles, stories placed about St. Lucia in the last 5 months. If we have to pay for that coverage, it would be almost US $5 million. So we've become even more creative in terms of getting our messaging out.
A critical component to sustaining a successful reopening of the tourism sector is airlift. Mrs. Doty says the airlines are increasingly returning to the local skies.
Based on the maintaining of our relationships with the airlines, we're pleased to say that on a weekly basis, we have 2 flights from the UK, British Airways, we have 11 flights a week out of the U.S. and out of the Caribbean, we have over 700 seats per week. So in total, we're looking at 2,500 seats a week right now coming into St. Lucia, and we are gearing up our marketing efforts, understanding that as more hotels open come this fall, that airlift is a priority, and making sure that we maintain and grow that airlift throughout the season.
Chief Executive Officer of the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, Beverly Nicholson Doughty. From the Government Information Service, Lisa Joseph reporting.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. When we return, we have sports highlights and the latest weather.